Great. Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Dr. Pone. Thank you to everyone attending. I can see the participants are joining as I speak. So let me start with an introduction to myself. I'm Dr. Caroline Lynch, or Carrie. I'm the Regional Advisor for Medicines for Malaria Venture based in Chiang Mai in Thailand. And I work on the Partnership for Vivax Elimination, or PAVE project. And I'm also the co-chair of the APMEN Vivax Working Group, which is bringing you this Tech Talk today. So the Tech Talk, as you'll already know, hopefully, is on pharmacovigilance of antimalarial drugs. And the reason that the Vivax Working Group is interested in this is because over the last year, we've been working closely with national malaria programs throughout the Asia-Pacific region to understand their priorities when it comes to Vivax elimination and therefore malaria elimination. And one of the key areas that they consistently ranked as a priority was pharmacovigilance. So either pharmacovigilance system strengthening or being able to tell patients more about the adverse events or have patients report adverse events, or being able to respond to adverse events as they arise. And I guess, as you will all likely know, the possible reason for this is because Vivax treatment is a bit more challenging than falciparum treatment, in that we have to use primaquine or an acetaminophen to treat the liver stage of Vivax, which is specific to that species relative to falciparum. And that family of drugs, the acetaminophenolines, poses a risk to people who are deficient in an enzyme called G6PD. And so I'm imagining now from the national program side that pharmacovigilance was perhaps a way that they could monitor how those drugs are being deployed and potentially build the confidence of health workers and that they are seeing any effects of using those drugs in the health system. So I'll move on to our panelists today. We have three fantastic presentations for you. The first is Dr. Shanti Pal. She joins us as the team lead of pharmacovigilance from the World Health Organization in Geneva and Switzerland. And I want to say a big thank you because I realize with the daylight saving, it's very early there. But Dr. Pal is a pharmacist with a PhD in pharmacology and has been with WHO since 2001. She has been key in introducing a smart strategy for advancing pharmacovigilance in resource-limited settings, including relevant guidelines and activities. And we'll see some of that, I think, when Dr. Wachari is presenting. Dr. Wachari Rangapiramanan is a pharmacist at the Thai Food and Drug Administration Health Product Vigilance Center, and she implements this, an active surveillance system monitoring the risks of health product usage in Thailand, primarily medicines, through a nationwide collection of adverse events reports and research. Dr. Wachari has a PhD in pharmacoepidemiology from the University of Manchester and a master's in advancing pharmacy practice from the University of Hertfordshire. And she'll present to us today. While Dr. Pal will give us an overview of pharmacovigilance, Dr. Wachari is going to present the kind of practicalities of integrating pharmacovigilance into feasibility studies that are taking place in Thailand. Finally, but certainly not least, we have Dr. Obaidullah, is a pharmacist with a long professional history, 23 years experience and a PhD degree in pharmaceutical sciences and an MPH. He serves as the director of the Pharmaceutical Evaluation and Registration Division at the Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan. And he's also the chairman of the Drug Registration Board. He works both nationally, obviously, and internationally has worked with the WHO headquarters team on regulatory system strengthening, helping set up global benchmarking, tool assessments of various national regulatory authorities and other procedures within WHO. So Dr. Obaidullah's talk will focus on how they are integrating pharmacovigilance into their routine care in Pakistan. So with that, I'm going to ask the controller of the slides to switch over to Dr. Shanti Pal's presentation. The presenters will each have around 10 minutes. Please, if you've got any questions, put them in the chat box, and then we'll have a Q&A session at the end of all three presentations, where you can engage with the speakers. Thank you very much.
So good morning and good afternoon to all who joined here at this webinar, Tech Talk. And I want to thank Dr. Lynch for the opportunity to join and speak at this event. So the fact that you're here shows that you're already sold on to pharmacovigilance. So perhaps some of the points I raised would be to reinforce the importance of pharmacovigilance, but also to think together with you on smart ways of addressing this important area of activity in our very limited resource settings. Next, please. So Dr. Nicholas Moore a while ago said this, and this speaks to, I think, all of us, that all drugs are dangerous, but some may also be useful. So it's a somewhat different perspective to take, that instead of saying many drugs will have adverse events, but we are saying that we are putting chemicals into your body, so all drugs are dangerous, but some may also have some added useful effects. For me, this is very telling. Next, please. So this is how pharmacovigilance is defined in WHO. That is a science, and it's a bunch of activities that involve detecting, assessing, understanding, and preventing adverse effects or any other medicine-related problems. So by any other medicine, also problems that result in adverse events, say due to quality or inappropriate use, etc., are also usually covered by pharmacovigilance. Next, please. So you know that it started with thalidomide. So thalidomide was barely there for 4 years in the world, and from between 1957 and 61, but some countries kept it on for a bit longer, for instance, in Japan, and some countries didn't introduce it at all, like in the US. But we do, this was the starting point, because as you know, children were born with phocomelia to women who took this product during the in the early stage of pregnancy. Next, please. So so although it was there for just about over a little close to 5 years, the effect lives on. The children and the population with phocomelia are now adults, and they do their best to live their lives with their disability. This is something, having such disabilities is something that we want to prevent and understand, and make sure that we don't have another thalidomide on our hands with any new product. Next, please. So could we have prevented thalidomide? Could they have prevented thalidomide? So now if you look at the clinical trial, clinical development of a drug, you know that it goes through various phases. And about phase 3 is when it would usually be introduced. But until that point, everything that we know in terms of safety and efficacy is in a very restricted population, usually within 5,000 individuals. And so it is hard, as you would agree, to be able to detect very rare events that could occur. And also, next, please. And also, as you know, that some of the populations, special populations such as women of childbearing age, children, and elderly, people with multiple comorbidities are excluded from these trials. As a result, when the product does enter the market, it would be used for the first time in this population. So it's also fully understandable that it couldn't be captured in the events such as thalidomide are less likely to be captured during a clinical trial, emphasizing the need for pharmacovigilance in the lead up to, as well as in the early phase and further scale up of a product. Next, please. So public health programs, as you know, can be many different types, and in WHO we have many public health programs such as the tuberculosis, non-communicable diseases like diabetes, and other vector-borne diseases like malaria. So, and often one of the strategies for addressing public health diseases in public health programs is through mass distribution of medicines. And as you would know, it's often presumptive treatment. For instance, in malaria, in many settings, until very recently, there weren't very strict legislations to ensure testing prior to treating. So this underscores the importance of having a pharmacovigilance in place, particularly in those programs that will have the disease in settings and using mass treatment approaches. Next, please. So here is a story, not entirely related, but to the current malaria discussions, but nevertheless has some important lessons for us to pick from. And this is a mass campaign where they were introducing products as a part of a routine deworming exercise. And then some children died. But there was this immediate reaction in the media that it was related to the treatment, although it was coincidental because there was a construction work ongoing and the construction collapsed and the children were buried under the bricks, so etc. But the immediate reaction was to call off the campaign. So especially when we are trying to contain and eliminate diseases, if we don't have a safety network in place to reassure public confidence, then it's very likely that the interest in the program, as well as the uptake of the treatment and prevention, would be seriously impacted. So the pharmacovigilance team in the country was able to swing in and reassure people, and they could go back to the deworming preventive measures shortly after. Next, please. So, but we know that pharmacovigilance has to compete with many other important activities in every setting, and there aren't enough resources to do everything everywhere and at the same time. So the question is, how do we highlight or how do we resource pharmacovigilance? So we are saying from WHO that let's prioritize and let's apply SMART principles and only do those things that will bring true value in pharmacovigilance for money in our settings in the specific country. Next, please. So we are saying that if you do a mapping and look at, on the top left is a box where it says what medicine or vaccine or diagnostic will be launched in a setting and what are the known risks, what have we learned from phase 2, phase 3 of this product. Then when will it be launched, the time of launch, how imminent is it, the launch country, where will it be launched, and then is the country ready to manage for any known events as well as unknown events, that is it pharmacovigilance ready. And so with this as the background, we are saying, advising countries that first start with a global benchmarking of your pharmacovigilance readiness, and then do only those efforts that will address the identified gaps in the PV systems for targeted products, not for everything. So if malaria is a huge endemic or HIV is a huge problem, perhaps it makes more sense to target your pharmacovigilance efforts around those products and then use the system for any other products appropriately. So this is the basically the risk-based prioritization of pharmacovigilance activities and the SMART pharmacovigilance approach. Next, please. So we are saying that depending on what resource level exists in the country, whether you're a low resource national regulatory authority or a high resource national regulatory authority, you can pace yourself. So within 2 years, every country, whether high or low resource, should have the minimum requirements. So work towards that. And we have a set of identified requirements that are available to countries as a reference on how to go about setting up the minimum requirements. And then moving on to between 2 and 5 years, you build broad capacity in pharmacovigilance for the minimum requirements, but also you build specific capacity for the targeted disease and the targeted product in your country. But then again, you may not, for the targeted product, you may not do everything. For instance, you may decide that active surveillance might be more useful in understanding the product-related specific events. But then if another country with better resources is already doing it, then perhaps we can rely on that country for the data, for the understanding through active surveillance of those specific events, given that, provided that, of course, the demographics and the morbidity and comorbidity patterns are comparable between the countries and the product is comparable between the countries. And then later, you continue to do your simple spontaneous reporting for your new product, relying on your other, say, neighbor countries with better resources for active surveillance results. But even as you start doing this, and when you have a better capacity, then you could consider teaming up with some of the other countries and then joining them, rather than just taking the results, joining them in investigations. So this is the three-tiered approach we are proposing, that first start with minimum, rely on your other neighbors who may have better resources to be doing active surveillance. Then gradually, when you have built your basic capacity in pharmacovigilance, you could also join them in some of these targeted investigations. And for the high-income countries, and we are proposing that you operate, in addition to having your usual pharmacovigilance, operate these sentinel sites that your neighboring countries with low resources could use and join you in implementing active surveillance studies. So these are some of the thinking that we are bringing in, and we've published this, and perhaps Watchery would be able to speak a bit more to this. Next, please. So this is my last slide. So I have one other slide with references on some useful references for you to look at. So we are saying that pharmacovigilance can be seen as an enabler, especially for innovative treatments, because it can, in a focused manner, look at major public events that are known or that could occur for the new products, together with other countries that are using the products across different resources. And because it's a tiered approach, it will help build sustainable pharmacovigilance, because you do some things on your own and some things you do together, and some things you rely on on other settings. And then by doing all this, you maintain public confidence in the product, so that issues of hesitancy and issues preventing uptake of innovative products can be addressed in a coherent and comprehensive manner with safety, correct and relevant safety information. Next, please. So this is my last slide, and where I have put down a few references, and I myself tried to pick up these references on our website, and I realized that it's near to impossible to get these. So I put them here. I've also given you our a generic email address. So try and access these. If you're not able to, just send an email to this account and we'll be able to send these to you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Carolyn. Over to you.
Great, that's fantastic. Thanks so much, Dr. Pal. I've got huge numbers of questions already, so we'll get to the Q&As shortly. I'll just encourage, we've got some questions in the Q&A, so if anyone else has questions, do put them in there and we'll get to them after all of the presentations. So now I'm going to invite Dr. Watchery to her presentation on integrating pharmacovigilance into a feasibility study in Thailand, and that's specifically on tafenoquine. So if we can get Dr. Watchery's slides up. Bring Dr. Watchery, thank you. Great, thanks a million. I'll invite you to give your presentation, Doctor.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Watchery. I work at Health Product Vigilance Center. It's under the Health Thai FDA. Today, I'm going to talk about the integration of pharmacovigilance into an feasibility study of tafenoquine. One of our HPVC responsibility is to strengthen pharmacovigilance system in Thailand. In this study, we have a role in healthcare professional to report adverse event to HPVC properly. It's like a normal standard. Before I talk about the feasibility study, I would like to give you an overview of our network and data management of adverse event or safety information of the Thai FDA. HPVC has a national pharmacovigilance database, which is called Thai Vigibase. It's collect adverse event report from across the country, from our network across the country. We mandate marketing authorization holder to report adverse event to us. Most of reports come from a hospital. They send us voluntarily to us, send the report to us by voluntary methods. Moreover, sometimes we have collaborate with other networks such as DDC, Department of Disease Control, in order to conduct a study, in order to conduct studies, such as the e-reports in this database are used for signal detection and assessment. We have a working groups to do this process. If there is any signal and need to be communicated to our network, so if it's urgent, we will communicate by using HPVC safety news. If it requires recall measure, so the drug committee has to agree with, and then the measure can be proceeded. From now on, I'm going to talk about why we monitor the safety profile of tafenoquine. HPVC joined the 3S project is responsible for monitoring the safety profile of we monitor this medicine. We didn't have much information of a relevant organization in Thailand because the patients, malaria patients, is not that high in Thailand. So we had to hold the meeting with the relevant organization in order to understand the circumstances. We held a meeting with the vector-borne disease, DDC, Department of Disease Control, DSK, which is marketing authorization holder of tafenoquine, and MMV in March 2019. After that, we strengthened pharmacovigilance knowledge to relevant staff, such as the Thai FDS, DDC, and safety committees during July to September 2019. And after that, Thai FDA approved the tafenoquine as a conditional drug on 27 December 2019. As a conditional drug status of tafenoquine, MAH GSK has to monitor and report adverse event to us. However, the DDC has a very important role in malaria elimination in Thailand. It decided to use tafenoquine in a feasibility study. The name of study is Operational Feasibility of Appropriate PYVAX Radical Cure with Tafenoquine or Primaquine after quantitative GCPD testing in Thailand. If actually tafenoquine can be used in any hospital in Thailand as a conditional drugs, but DDC used this medicine in only these studies in order to make sure that the healthcare professionals use it properly. So the objectives of these studies are to investigate whether PYVAX patient ages at least 60 years old are treated with tafenoquine or primaquine, according with the appropriate level of GCPD enzyme activity. The DDC also measure the frequency of drug-induced acute hemolytic anemia, but HPVC monitor and we want all reports from the use of tafenoquine. This study compared tafenoquine plus chloroquine versus primaquine plus chloroquine. Primaquine plus chloroquine is a standard treatment for PYVAX infection. Currently, there are 5 hospitals in Thailand participating in this study. Before recruiting the patients, the DDC and HPVC provide a workshop for them. So the workshop contains information on how to recruit patients and how to report as what event to Thai HPVC properly. Thai FDA issued guidelines on monitoring the safety profile of tafenoquine. These guidelines are published on our website, so you can see detail in this link. The guidelines contain information on tafenoquine information, operational flowchart for monitoring the safety profile of tafenoquine. It's like a suggestion how how they collect information and how to monitor the safety profile of tafenoquine. What information hospital should inform to the HPVC and contact information when they have any problem on reporting adverse event, they can contact us. When they find any adverse event due to tafenoquine, they can report it by using AE online reporting. So when they have a username and password, they can access it and then can report it through this system. If they don't have a username and password, they can use a paper form, and they can send this form to us by fax or by mail. But minimum information is required for reporting consists of identifiable reporter, patient information, medicinal health products. In this study means tafenoquine, and suspected adverse event. Such adverse event is defined as any untoward medical occurrence that may present during treatment with pharmaceutical product, but which doesn't necessarily have a causal relationship with the treatment. So if any something like an adverse event, so they can send to us. We have a box that they can show that the cause of the event is may be due to the existing the disease or medication alert, but they can report to us. The after scheme means that they have to send this information to us, but they can also put the information on seriousness, outcome, and cause of the event into this report. This slide and the next slide show the operational flowchart for monitoring of the safety profile of tafenoquine. Pharmacists play a very important role in the assessing adverse event due to the use of medicines, and also send the report to us. As a normal practice, at the end of each month, pharmacists have to report the number of patients who use tafenoquine and experience any adverse event to us by using this form. So we will know the number of patients who use the medicine and patient who experience adverse event. That's it, all my presentation. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Dr. Wachari. Interesting to see how it's being implemented here in Thailand. So I'll now ask Dr. Obaidullah to have your slides up and ready. And again, if anyone's got any questions, please put them in the Q&A or the chat, and we can address them after the talks. Thank you. Dr. Obaidullah, you're muted at the moment.
Yes, thank you very much, Caroline. So I hope I am audible to all colleagues. Is it so?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So hello, everyone. I am Dr. Ubaidullah, Director, Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan, and topic of my presentation is Pharmacovigilance in Public Health System of Pakistan. Before going to my presentation, in fact, it's very interesting coincidence that today, Med Safety Week, which is being observed by the World Health Organization every year, and this year, Epsilon Monitoring Center teams up with the medicine regulator. And this year, this has been started from the 7th today to the 13th of November. And the theme is how patients and healthcare workers, professionals make safety work. So it is very work. So it's very interesting that we are also talking about the pharmacovigilance today in Pakistan. So in our world as well. So pharmacovigilance system in public health system of Pakistan, and I start my presentation with UN Sustainable Development Goals. As we all know that there are 17 goals, and all member countries who are signatory of UN, they are supposed to comply all these things. And we can see that that goal number 3 is the good health. And all to achieve all these goals, there are about 169 targets. And you can see that SDG target 3.8 is that achieve universal health coverage, including financial risk protection, and very importantly, access to quality essential healthcare services and access to safe, effective, and quality medicines and vaccine. Now, the very important point is safe, effective, and quality medicines and vaccine for all. And if we see that any regulatory
Dr. Obaidullah, I'm just checking everyone can hear you. I can't hear you at the moment.
Is there any problem with my voice?
We can hear you, Dr. Obaidullah.
Let's just check. Dr. Manash, can you hear? Or is it my system?
Yeah, I think we can hear Dr. Gary. Yeah, we can hear Dr. Obaid speaking perfectly.
You can hear. Okay, it's my system. All right, please go ahead. My apologies.
Yeah, okay. So if we see that every regulatory authority which grants approval of any pharmaceutical or therapeutic goods, the basic criteria is the safety, efficacy, and quality of that very drug. Now, these three parameters, safety, efficacy, and quality, every regulatory authority is supposed to confirm about life cycle of the product, starting from the manufacturing up to the availability of that very product in the shelf life of a pharmacy. So here comes the pharmacovigilance, because now if we see that patient safety is of optimum importance for any healthcare system. And if we see that medicine safety, patient safety is a broader term, and medicine safety is one of the part of the patient safety. And as already shared by our colleague Shante, that these all drugs have side effects and adverse effects as well, because basically these are chemicals or biologicals, but some of the side effects and some of these activities are known to the patient as well and healthcare professional as well. But there are some adverse effects which are not known to the patients as healthcare professional as well. And at the same time, some adverse effects are preventable and some are not preventable. And these component adverse events which are preventable and non-preventable, these comes under the circumstance of the pharmacovigilance. So pharmacovigilance is one of the very important component for the safety, efficacy, and quality parameter, which every drug is supposed to be passed through all these parameters. So here comes the pharmacovigilance. As I'm supposed to share the pharmacovigilance system in Pakistan. In fact, we started our pharmacovigilance journey in 1994 when we becomes the associate member of the Solar Monitoring Center. But we started this work very vigorously after promulgation of our Draft Act 2012. First, we established our National Pharmacovigilance Center in 2017, and in 2018, we got the full membership from the UPSELA. And then there is a series of activities like establishment of pharmacovigilance guidelines, pharmacovigilance centers, launching of online system, and very importantly, because it is a coordinated work, while sitting in any capital, it's the pharmacovigilance related to the patients, healthcare professionals, hospital. So it is an integrated work, and provincials and regions are very important in this aspect. And then we established our provincial pharmacovigilance center. And after that, we link all our provincial centers with the VigiFlow. And very importantly, because Pakistan is a very big country with about 230 million population, our vaccine component is being looked after by EPI. And now EPI is integrated with our National Pharmacovigilance Center. And now we are in the system where all of our pharmacovigilance activities, AEFI, being monitored and linked with all these activities. So if we see that how this system works, and it is very specific to the tefenecoin as well, which we are discussing right now, that monitoring mechanism is that first we do initial benefit risk assessment at the time of registration of therapeutic goods. And here it is the discussion with the tefenecoin, whether we should grant registration or marketing authorization of this very drug or not. And if the regulatory authority decides that it is in the benefit of the patients to grant the registration or marketing authorization, then then the post-marketing surveillance is very important for all these things. And for this post-marketing surveillance, as shared by our Thai colleague, there must be some system in any regulatory authority and across healthcare professionals that all these systems can be done by some pharmacovigilance activities, which must be integrated with the national system so that they can work, identify all these things for the better working of the patient. So the first assessment at the time of restriction of therapeutic goods, then post-marketing surveillance for the for collection of the data, and then there is risk-benefit analysis at that time, and ultimately it is the decision of the regulatory authority to stay the product in the market or withdrawn it from the market. So this is the basic pharmacovigilance monitoring system, which is supposed to be observed by every regulatory authority in general. And specifically, when you launch such a drug, which have known side effects, known effects which are related to the that very drug. Very importantly, it is the medication error monitoring, because when you say that any drug which is essentially required for the healthcare system of the country, then you are supposed to issue the high alert medication list. Here we have done this. In our country, we have issued high alert medication, which are supposed to have some pharmacovigilance data, some side effects and ADRs as well. And then adverse event reporting guidelines we issued for the healthcare professionals. So if any country which approved the tefenecoin as well, then it is the drug which is supposed to be included this high alert medication list as well. Now, as shared by our colleague from Thai FDA as well, that there is a reporting mechanism as Opsula Monitoring Center. It is the basically custodian of all these events, and we use the VG-Base, VG-Lies, VG-Access, and VG-Flow for various activities related to the collection of the data and flow of report is from the VG-Flow. And it is the coordination mechanism, as I have shared that now after the COVID vaccine and vaccination and all, we have a very good system with our EPI. Basically, we have 3-layer system. First one is the Pakistan National Pharmacovigilance Center at our headquarters at Islamabad. Then we have regional center level 2 for the collection of data from the provincial headquarters. And level 3 is the various regions from where we collect all such of data. And this reporting system can be from any type, like from telephone, from the social network. We have mobile safety app as well, email system, and something for COVID, we have established NIMS, National Integrated Management System, for reporting of all these PV activities. And I suggest that because tefenecoin has also such type of PV data as well. So if we consider it for the approval, then we must associate our national managers and national programs for the malaria eradication to have such type of reporting system. And it is our statistics. It is all online data, and till the 4th of November, you can see that our all data is available. And right now, since last 2 years, we have reported 44,243 all reports to VG-Flow. VG-Flow is a software by the UMC. And after their assessment, now we have report to 33,598 reports to the Opsula Monitoring Center for further. So, and you can see that how it works. Basically, it is a collection of data, not only from the public health professionals, the healthcare professionals, but rather it is from the provinces and e-reporting by the patients as well, and pharma companies as well. And you can see that a significant number of the data and reports have been received from the companies as well. So it is all system, but definitely every system has some way forward as well. So based on our experience, what I am suggesting that any country which is interested to have tefenecoin, then MA marketing authorization for its patients, then it's very important to have some integrated system for the pharmacovigilance, And we can have this integrated system by having international collaborations for harmonized working. And for this purpose, Upsala Monitoring Center is one of the very important component where international coordination can be done. At the same time, all those countries which have approved phenacoin marking authorization, they can integrate their data as well, and they can guide, they can send guidance to other member countries as well. At the same time, functional pharmacovigilance system in every province and region is very important. Capacity building session is very important for healthcare professional, because it is a system which needs capacity building of healthcare professionals, especially in regions, to how to report and how to differentiate between side effects and areas as well. At the same time, investigation and various regulatory decision makings to be taken on the basis of the pharmacovigilance system. So it's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. You've answered a few of my questions that I had already with your talk, Dr. Obaid. Thank you. So I can see that I'm going to ask the presenters to come on stream with their videos, and we have a few questions in the Q&A in the chat box for you all. I'm going to start with Dr. Pal. Hi, Faye Espino. How are you doing? Thank you for your question, Dr. Pal. Faye wanted to know, if I can just come back up here a second, what are the minimum pharmacovigilance requirements for low resource national regulatory authorities, and how are capacity and competency assessed? And if I may, I'm going to add in my own question to Faye's, and that is, what should disease programs expect in terms of a feedback loop from pharmacovigilance units as well? So that's two questions.
So thank you, Dr. Lynch, and thanks also to I think it was Dr. Farooq who posted that question, or Dr. Surya who posted that question. Thank you. So I was just in the process of copying and pasting the minimum requirements from our document, and I'll do that. But it's very straightforward, having a center, having a designated focal point, having a reporting form, a communication strategy, and a committee that investigates a report. So it's very straightforward. So at a minimum, every country should aspire for that. So these minimum requirements were developed together with Global Fund, through a consensus building meeting that many countries attended between 2009 and 10. And this was precisely that all the proposals that were going to the Global Fund, they had very minimum pharmacovigilance in it. So, at best, they would be talking about resistance and how to capture resistance to a product and quality effects. So then we worked with the Global Fund, saying that any proposal going to the Global Fund here on would have to include how, if they have the minimum requirements, if not, how they would use the Global Fund grants to also build the minimum requirements around those products. So that was the starting point when we did an assessment. So it is developed together with countries' input and through consensus with Global Fund. So it is primarily, it touches all the big threes, the HIV, TB, malaria products. So I will paste that. So that's one thing. And then to your question about, the loop, feedback to the public health programs. And here again, already in, I think it was 2004, we developed a guideline for integrating pharmacovigilance in public health programs. So in practical terms, what does this mean? So we have proposed a bridge where you have experts in pharmacovigilance, experts from epidemiology and disease specialists would come in, and you would create a group in the country. So, and it also touches upon a question by Dr. Farooq saying, who investigates, because is it the pharmacovigilance person or is it the malaria program? So we are saying that it takes both, that you need to set up a committee that involves experts from PV and experts from the disease. And it should be a fluid committee because the disease focus will be different. So you have a core committee, and then you bring in additional disease experts, and then you look at the reports as these come up, particularly for the new products. But in addition, you would also have trained persons in your disease programs who would do routine investigation, because you cannot wait, because towards patient safety, you got to react immediately, as you would know. So as soon as you see, so you need to have enough competence to be able to, in the disease program, to be able to assess and investigate and take any measures to mitigate the harm to the patient. So that should be the first thing. And towards that, you need a certain competence within the disease program. So we're also saying that. And so, and there was one other point about performance. So having established the minimum requirements, how do we assess if they are performing and delivering as expected? So we've developed, first of all, the global benchmarking tool. So that allows you for a progressive evolution of your regulatory system, including the pharmacovigilance system. So from step A to step Z. And so that's one. But then that's only, having the necessary nuts and bolts in place. So, but are they performing? So that is, we've developed a key performance indicators, and then we will apply those to say, are these infrastructures delivering? So being, and then that we assess as a maturity level. So if maturity level 3 is a place where all the nuts and bolts are there and are functioning, and then you're fully functional and delivering regulatory authority together with the pharmacovigilance system. So there are 9 functions we assess, pharmacovigilance being one of them for performance.
Great, that's fantastic. I think any of the resources that you've mentioned, we should definitely either put up in the chat, or afterwards we can send out an email with the link to the talk as well as all of those.
Yeah, and I'll send PDF documents of these to you, Dr. Lynch, and perhaps to Dr. Shrestha, and maybe you can then distribute it to everybody. Because I do realize it's very difficult to get anything on our website. I apologize.
No problem. It's great that you can send through the documents. Thank you so much. I'll move on. We've got more questions for you, Dr. Pal, but I'm going to ask Dr. Watchery a couple of questions now. Dr. Mohammed Farouk asked, and I'm just going to combine that with Dr. Yadav's question, how, he said the presentation from Thailand is really interesting. Curious to know how the coordination took place for any adverse event that may have occurred. Who are the people who will do the investigation of the adverse event, and might there be different government units involved with that, and how people would respond? So for any adverse events that have been picked up, or what is the plan if an adverse event is picked up in terms of coordination between different units? And then a second question, I guess complementing that from Dr. Yadav, how do you integrate pharmacovigilance into feasibility study proposals for other countries? I guess they may be seeking guidance if they're thinking about feasibility studies in other countries. What are the key things to integrate pharmacovigilance into the studies?
For the first question, generally in Thailand's circumstances, pharmacists has an important role to report adverse event to the Thai FDA. So sometimes in the hospital, sometimes clinicians notify adverse event to the pharmacist unit, and then pharmacists we have like the WHO algorithm or Nigeria algorithm. Do you hear me? It seems that I lost connection. Do you hear me?
Yes, you froze just for a little second, but you're back. We can hear you.
Okay. When adverse event occur in the hospital, clinician or nurse notify pharmacy unit, and pharmacists will access the adverse event due to the use of medicine. And after that, they will report it to the HPVC. This is a normal process. It's like a well-known practice in Thailand. But for the second question, how to integrate pharmacovigilance into the feasibility, is I think this is the first time that we did it. We done it. So it's like so it's quite a little bit abnormal for us. So we had a meeting with DDC, Department of Disease Control. They actually at the first time they decided to use in normal practice, but they worried about the safety issue of the tafenoquine. They decided to use a feasibility study instead of using in the normal practice. They decided, but we just help them how to report it, how to capture adverse event, and report it to the Thai FDA. That's it. The story. Okay.
Okay, so it's all about coordination between the different units when it comes to both the investigations and then also integration into the feasibility studies.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, thanks a million. I'll move on to a couple of questions for Dr. Obadullah from Dr. Mohammed Farouk. Thank you for your presentation. He wanted to know if there's a system in place or a plan in place where the adverse events patients, for example, for primaquine and tafenoquine, are registered with their biometrics, and then they can be identified anywhere in the country before administering treatment for radical cure in the future if they become PV malaria positive. Perhaps this is to do with G6PD testing, I'm not sure. And how do you see the role of such a system in terms of malaria elimination? And I'm going to add a second question from Prudence. Hi, Prudence. Welcome. Prudence was saying that most of the pharmacovigilance systems seem to be based at the hospital level, but treatment for malaria is often done by the first level health providers, including community health workers. And I'm putting this question to you, Dr. Obadullah, but also I ask the other panelists to also contribute as well. It's interesting that there's an electronic system for reporting in Pakistan, but are lower level health workers trained in its use? And in addition to that, how do we balance off kind of side events or side effects being reported in from lower levels into a system that might be overburdened if they were suddenly reporting absolutely everything? So it's two questions for you, Dr. Obadullah, and then a kind of add-on question for all of the panelists in terms of adverse event reporting.
Yes, in fact, as far as first question is concerned, in fact, still in Pakistan, we have not approved or authorized tafenoquine for the use, but we are in the phase of dialogue with our national malaria program, which definitely before the approval, we will prepare a study, a feasibility study, how we can screen our patient for G6P deficiency, and then after. The most important thing, which I understand from the tafenoquine point of view, is it is the track and trace of the patient for who have used this and for their. And in fact, we have a very good experience, although incident was very bad. Punjab Institute of Cardiology, when there was some adulteration of medicine, and at that time, in our country, due to our that system track and trace, we have we witnessed one of the largest withdrawal of some adulterated medicine from the country as well. So what we are planning right now is that in case of tafenoquine marketing authorization, we must have some integrated system, and very importantly shared by one of the participant question, that the use of this medicine is not only in the capitals or some big cities. It is the peripheral areas where the track and trace is very same time, probably good in some these of countries. People avoid to use some medicines as well. Why? Still, we are in the phase of discussion and preparation of launch of tafenoquine, because the point which had been shared by Dr. Shanti in his presentation, and the thalidomide tragedy. And if we see that this tafenoquine drug, although it has a very good spectrum and for the malaria treatment, but at the same time, its side effects reported, which have been reported, these are dangerous as well. So risk-benefit analysis coupled with the pharmacovigilance activities and coupled with the monitoring activity, it only builds the case for any regulatory authority to approve or not to permit the marketing authorization for the tafenoquine. So it's not only safety, efficacy, quality parameters which will establish the criteria for the establishment for the approval of this drug, rather more of that pharmacovigilance collection data, track and trace of the patients, and importantly, coordination mechanism and training of the healthcare professionals which provide this drug to the patient. Because what I have understood is that this is not the drug which will be available on the pharmacy shelf for the selling purpose. This is the drug which must be exclusively available with the national program, malaria programs, for distribution to the patient after performance of G6P dehydrogenase deficiency test. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much. So I'm going to just re-emphasize the other question as well. And you touched on it slightly, Dr. Obed, with your response, but bearing in mind Prudence's question about the pharmacovigilance activities, which seem to be at the hospital level, but for malaria specifically, and not necessarily for tafenoquine, but primaquine, other antimalarials, or even as you mentioned before, Dr. Powell, HIV or TB, many cases are seen at the community level. And how do we ensure pharmacovigilance at the community level as well as the higher levels? So if you could, the other panelists could comment on that as well, I'd be grateful.
Perhaps I can go first, and then maybe Vachri and Dr. Vedula want to come in. So one of the things that is very typical for pharmacovigilance among, out of all the other regulatory functions is that it's the end user perspective, so as a point of care. So all other regulatory functions, we could assess by talking to the regulator, looking at the dossiers, etc. But pharmacovigilance is unique, and of course, quality laboratories are unique in the sense that you have to do a field visit, which we often do, to see at the point of care, in the facilities, in the community, at the teaching hospitals, are people adequately trained? Do they have resources? So I think that is an important point to address your question, that we need to make sure that there is sufficient awareness and there is sufficient training provided and appropriate training. It might be slightly different at the teaching hospitals versus a community special or community worker, health worker. So we have different modules that we have developed, and we push these to countries to adapt and use them. So that's one thing. The second thing, and Dr. Bezula already alluded to this, is the app-based reporting. We have really pushed this very hard, saying that this is the only way to get reports. Offline, you can get the reports and then save them in your phone through an app. And then when you are connected through internet, you send them to your national authority, competent authority. So I think a couple of years ago, we started, and close to some 30 countries are currently using the MedSafety app. It was developed as part of a European project by MHRA. Then we teamed up with MHRA. And then it was called the Web Radar app for them, for the EU countries, but we teamed up with them and we negotiated a deal for countries that could then use this app, download it, and then and we have linked the dictionaries, the adverse event terminologies, etc., to the app, so that it's pretty seamless. And the good thing about it is that because we've been involved together with the Uppsala Monitoring Center in developing the adaptation of this app, so it links with the VigiFlow that Dr. Obeidullah said seamlessly. So if you will download the app in your phone, collect the report, and hit the send button, it'll go to your VigiFlow in the country. And then the authorities, when they're ready, they will share it with the global database in Sweden. So this is what we've done, that at the peripheral level, giving the app to the users, to the healthcare workers, saying, use this and send your reports. In addition, we also introduced e-reporting, etc. These would be some of the ways in which you would collect reports from the periphery. And we've learned a lot in the context of COVID-19. So, and for the vaccines, we developed something called the VG Mobile, which is based on the principles of MedSafety app, which I just mentioned, but a bit more elaborate, because for vaccines, we need much more information, such as lot number, etc. So, and then the idea is that we'll also develop that further for medicines. And the idea is MedSafety comes with a cost, and we are not able to sustain the costing, but we think that VG Mobile will make it available free to all countries. That's the plan. That's how big. So I've given it away, but watch this space, as they would say. So we do hope that in a year or so, countries would have free access to this app that for both medicines and vaccines. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Wachari, do you want to comment on the pharmacovigilance at community level?
In Thailand, I can say only like a general, not specific for the malaria patients. So in like a lower, I don't know how to say, lower hospital is not a hospital. They're under hospital. So when the patient experience any adverse event, they inform the pharmacy unit, and then pharmacists will assess the association between the adverse events and report. And then if the pharmacist think that the adverse events is caused by a drug, they will provide it like a drug alert card to the patients. So that it's like we want to ensure that the patients get the knowledge properly, and we need like a specialist to access this. Even I think it's quite difficult for like a healthcare worker, like a normal healthcare worker, to access the adverse events due to the use of medicines. I think at least pharmacists should access it. For the people level, so last few months ago we used like a mobile app to collect adverse event. It's called more prompt application. It's collect adverse also you know it. So it collect like adverse event due to the use of COVID-19 vaccine. When the information goes into the database, we can see it, but the database is not belong to the Thai HPC, but Thai HPC can access it and see the adverse event report due to the use of vaccine. So we have a working group to detect signal and access the signal through this. And then if there is nothing, we will not communicate with anyone. Something like that. That's
Great. Thanks a million. Thanks for that. I have my vaccine cert on my MoreProm app. That's how I know it. Dr. Obed, the final word, we're just running a little bit over time. So final word on pharmacovigilance at the community level, and then we'll close up. Thank you.
In fact, in my opinion, technology is the only solution for all these problems. And I shared by Dr. Shanti that probably there is some planning for the mobile app. That is the solution, because when we are talking about the community, and it is very difficult for any government to provide all those resources which are essentially required for such collection of data in every small community as well. And this problem is very much vigorous in LMICs, because there is this scarcity of the resources. The only solution, it is the use of technology for allowing these products. Otherwise, being a regulator, my suggestion would be for other colleagues that not to permit such drugs for the approval marketing authorization if they have not catered the requirement for the pharmacovigilance or all those requirements which are essentially required before the administration of the drug. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much. So I'm going to close up because we're slightly over time. There are more questions in the Q&A around the variation in pharmacovigilance activities, the reliance mechanisms, and different aspects of pharmacovigilance. So I guess the conclusion is that this is a huge area that we need to revisit again. But what we'll do is we'll collate all of the questions, and if it's okay with the panelists, we'll ask you to answer those offline and put them on the APMEN website for folks to see the answers to. I think my conclusion out of this is that an enormous amount of coordination is needed, or more coordination between the disease programs and pharmacovigilance. And there's a lot that has to be thought through to pull pharmacovigilance down to the different levels of the health system to ensure confidence in the drugs that we're using, and also patient safety. But I hope that this is the start of discussions for the APMEN Vivax working group. We have our annual meeting in December where we'll be having a pharmacovigilance session there as well to discuss a lot more on this topic. So thank you so much to the presenters today to get us started on this. I'm hoping that the participants found it interesting. I think that Dr. Pon is going to put up a poll to ask about the webinar. There we go. So if people just stay online and answer the poll, then we'll close off after that's finished. But while people are answering that, yeah, just to say thank you so much to everyone for the presentations. And I'm very excited to get all of those resources that you were mentioning available to people across the region. I think they'll definitely be an interest in those.